taken action, and then we would have been criticized. Why did you allow him to hit his head, or why did you allow to continue there for hours and suffer? And we're just not going to do that. So, all right, any other questions, and we can move on? All right, we'll move on to our next one here. Thank you, Major. Our next one we'll talk about is Mr. Stephen Sims. We received 4 tips about Mr. Sims from January through March. And April of this month, just a few days ago, we did execute a search warrant at his residence on Gifford Drive in Spring Hill. He was arrested on 10 counts initially of possession of child pornography. A day or so later, through extraction of electronic devices, we were to add an additional 90 counts for a total of 100 counts of possession of child pornography. He's currently being held in the Hernando County Jail with no bond. He does have a couple prior arrests, nothing related to this type of activity. He was arrested for burglary of a conveyance, and he was given pretrial detention back in 1993, and then a year later in 1994, he was arrested for grand theft and given 3 years probation. Interestingly enough, or sickening enough, is that my deputies, I think some of us even thinking about child pornography is repulsive, to say the least, and turns our stomach. I don't think most people can imagine what my detectives have to go through, because we obviously have to look at it enough to validate that it is actually pornography and there is actually a child involved. And in at least one of the videos, I was told by my detectives that there was a child that was between 2 and 4 months old involved in one of the videos, and another one, the child was between 4 and 6 years old. And we have found probably at least 153 different videos or still images on his devices, and he is certainly facing some significant charges, as well as some significant jail time, up to and including life in prison. I know the question is probably going to be asked, do we know of any victims locally, or did he have any victims? And we don't know of any local victims, and we don't know of him being involved in any of those. Right now, the only evidence we have is his possession of child pornography. But of course, if any citizens have any information to the contrary, we would love to talk to them, but we don't have any information to that effect as it stands at the moment. Now, the next individual we have, and I think he has an appropriate last name. His name is Joshua Glenn Blight. I think most people might believe he is a Blight. He was residing at 11811 Broad Street in Lot 26 in Brooksville, and we received a tip in March that he may also have some child pornography. And so on April 12th, just a couple days ago, we did a search warrant on his residence, and we also found and arrested him for 10 counts of child possession, or possession rather, of child pornography. And he's currently being held in the Hernando County Jail under no bond status as well, pending further investigation. But what might also turn your stomach on him with his situation is he has previous arrests. He's actually a registered sexual offender. He isn't on any special conditions, but he was originally arrested in Illinois back in 1998 when he was 17, and he was arrested for aggravated criminal sexual abuse on an individual who was 11 years old and a family friend. A few years later, in 2003, also in Illinois, he was charged, and we're having some difficulty finding any details of this. The charges seem a little bit strange based on what little bit we know, but he was arrested for armed robbery, aggravated criminal sexual assault, as well as kidnapping. He was only convicted of the kidnapping, and we have some information it might have been some sort of armed robbery. I don't know how the sexual assault charge was determined when he was arrested at the time, but he was only convicted of, in that situation, of kidnapping, and he served 54 months in the Department of Corrections in Illinois. Again, he was charged with 10 counts right now of possession of child pornography. We also found during the search warrant some methamphetamine as well as paraphernalia. And he right now stands of charges that could lead up to 156 years in prison. Bottom line is these individuals, if we get tips on individuals that are involved in child pornography, because that obviously either here or someplace else in the world is going to be a very horrific act on a very young person, we are certainly going to take every reasonable means without violating their rights to make sure that justice is served and that they don't have the opportunity to decide to defend on anyone here in Hernando County. So with those, I'll answer a couple questions. They're pretty cut and dried cases. I don't know if I can answer a whole lot, but again, I'll be happy to entertain any questions. Any questions on those?
Sheriff, in regards to there's a lot of parents interested about what happened at Fox Chapel Middle School.
Yeah.
The school district came out yesterday and said they got new information which led them to remove the teacher from the classroom. Can you tell us what that new information is?
Well, I believe, you'd have to ask them, but I believe that the information that we had done a risk protection order, eventually, I guess, made it to the decision makers to take some action with regard to that person's employment. As I said in our press release, employment decisions are entirely the decision of the school district. We are certainly not involved in that decision, whether to allow somebody to stay there, whether to discipline them, whether to move them. That is entirely up to the school district. We are doing some checking as to, I know that there was some discussions with individuals in the district that we were in the process of obtaining a risk protection order, but I'm not sure who that made it to or when it made it to that individual. So that's something we'll kind of work with to make sure that our lines of communication were open, but it's certainly something we're going to have to look into a little further.
They made it sound like there was new information.
No, there wasn't any new information other than we went through the process of getting. I am assuming that is the only new information that a decision maker got. We didn't come up with any new information since we've initiated the risk protection order that I'm aware of. But I think it was because we were able to get a risk protection order and because the judge determined that this person should not possess firearms for a year, that was something that may have given them the ability to make a different decision in the employment status. But you'd have to ask them particulars. Okay? Any other questions? All right, thank you all very much. I hope you have a great day. And if you need anything, obviously you can contact us through the website or through the public information officer if you're with traditional media. Thank you all.